Launched amid the global crisis of a pandemic, with grand plans to return a popular cast and series to television, Daredevil Reborn came to a sudden halt in mid-June. Now, this move was more than just a pause, which was brought on by the union actions. It actually marked a turning point, perhaps for an entire franchise. In today's video, we expose the behind-the-scenes chaos and the changes that led to Daredevil's dramatic reboot and the collapsing of the audience interest that inspired it. We're going to dive deeply into Marvel's venture into TV, so stick around. Here we go. Before we get started, this is my once-a-week request to double-check that you are still subscribed. Surprisingly, there is about 40% of you still that are checking out the videos regularly but are still not subscribed to the channel. Your subscription actually gets the video in front of even more eyeballs and can catapult this channel beyond the 15K milestone that we're aiming for by the end of the year. With that all being said, I appreciate it. Let's dive right in. Now, the first cracks appeared when Marvel television executives, including the team genius named Kevin Feige, they reportedly reviewed the series' early footage and realized something glaringly obvious. The show just wasn't working at all. Now, this is being reported widely in several different sources in all the trades. A radical decision at that point had to be made. Actually, probably the only decision that could be made was made, but that's an entirely other conversation. Potentially, a job-saving decision here was made for and by Kevin Feige, and the head writers Chris Ord and Matt Corman, along with the directors, were kicked to the curb. And that signaled a significant shift in the series' creative direction, and hopefully beyond everything that we had been hearing, which meant it would have been very, very bad indeed. Now, since the debut of WandaVision in early 2021, Marvel Studios tried to assemble a companion product to go along with their theatrical offerings, which was a very bad plan. It was an attempt to extend stories like Wanda's, and unfortunately, it was also there to shoehorn previously failed characters from the comics into this universe, because that's what was needed in insertion of failure. Anyway, over 50 hours of programming were released, signaling a significant shift from a studio renowned for its cinematic achievements and move them over to television. So gone was the traditional pilot approach from way back when, and to be fair, they weren't actually the only ones that were doing this. They kind of succumbed to some desperation. Instead, Marvel actually opted, like many others, to do full season production. Showrunners became film executives somehow, and the concept of save it in post was exploited to a point of breaking. And being relied on it to save the day was, well, a bad idea indeed. Now it's being suggested, of course, that Marvel is rebooting Daredevil to return to tradition. Really? I'm not quite convinced. You see, amid the rapid expansion of Marvel's TV division, they face some real self-created challenges that I don't think they've rectified yet. They have a complete dearth of creative talent that are favoring political points of view rather than story. They have a limited fan interest in the promoted D-list characters that were created out of modernity over the course of the last 15 years. And they have a staggering amount of diminishing returns that simultaneously killed interest in subsequent films or anything associated with Marvel up to this date. Now, Daredevil represents the latest example of this internal struggle, obviously because it's been, well, halted. But rather than embracing Netflix's series tone, the show kind of wanted to adopt a serial courtroom drama, a legal procedural. That's going to disappoint fans who were expecting action and excitement, but fans have already seen a failure in the courtroom. I think you all can recall the calamitous She-Hulk and just how much garbage that show was. In fact, I think a lot of YouTubers actually probably, bought cars with that. Hey Grant, did you buy anything with your She-Hulk money? Anyway, they were actually returning to double dip on that particular legal car crash. Well, let me tell you, no thank you. And they came to that same point of view. Reportedly, Charlie Cox's Matt Murdock hardly appeared in costume until the 4th episode of this new rebooted show, forcing Marvel to reconsider the show's overall vision. Yeah, no kidding. He's supposed to be a street-level hero, and you put him in the courtroom, where fans didn't like seeing him as much. Of course, they also shifted the costume and changed just enough to be different enough from what the Stephen DeKnight original show actually contained, which if you watch some of the recent coverage, DeKnight went scorched earth all about that on Twitter or X or whatever we're calling it these days. Now, to right the ship, Marvel has indicated that they're after a creative reboot. And since there are a number of episodes that are shot already, the official word that is out there in the trades is that some of these scenes and episodes will be retained. Well, new elements are introduced with Ord and Corman now serving as executive producers to save face, because really, they don't want anything to do with them now. And reportedly, from some very reliable sources, none of that's actually true. It's incredibly misleading. Everything is going to be scrapped and completely rebuilt. So you might see an action scene incorporated from one of those previous episodes, but probably not. Marvel was a bigger-than-life brand. Disney's biggest mistake was to cheapen it with a ton of subpar shows, and look where we are. Marvel's uniquely hubris-inspired approach bypassed pilots, talent, and showrunners, creating tension in all of its television shows. Its lack of cohesive direction and experienced leadership bled onto the on-screen products that you and I consumed. Well, I stopped consuming them, but maybe you didn't. The shift to the multi-season storytelling with actual story arcs and personal narratives in future projects reflects changing strategy, supposedly. But that kind of statement coming from a trade usually leads to storylines that cater to strictly one overwhelming demographic: women, which doesn't address the biggest problem with these shows. Supposedly, the days of fixing problems during post-production are over, and Marvel is actually actively hiring legit showrunners. But why now? Well, Daredevil isn't the only show that's getting the reboot treatment here, and this is the biggest part of this story. Agatha is being rebooted again for the third time. Yeah, it's that bad. And Wonder Man is being rewritten as we speak, and hopefully that has an opportunity to improve. But for now, you're going to have to suffer Echo, because that's being released in its current form with no changes. They're not going to try to bring everybody back to try to fix it. It's going to be the only Marvel show released in a binge model. Isn't that telling? Now, all these reported changes suggest that Marvel, or the Marvel Universe, is adapting to traditional television culture, focusing on character-driven storytelling and dedicated TV executives that will obviously make it so we'll get some better results. But if the same politics are retained and represented, then this move is a waste of time and an incredible waste of money, and Disney has wasted both of those in, well, plentitude. So now I guess it's back to the drawing board for Disney once more, which, as usual, leaves us with our normal questions. Will this new and improved approach of returning to a tried and true methodology actually fix future Marvel shows and films and force out the political trash that has been inserted into them? I, for one, am skeptical here. You probably are. Specifically, can Marvel's Daredevil successfully transition from its Netflix roots to its Disney Plus era? I'm also skeptical there. Will any of this change anything at all within the broader Disney? Because they're so steeped in radical politics on one side of the scale. Your guess is as good as mine. Let me know down in the comments section below, and don't forget to hit that thumbs up as well. Be sure to take care of yourself and take care of others, and until next time, see ya! Man, my nose is itchy.